first question is what inspired you to become a filmmaker? Why you choose to go into film director or writing?
Um, well, you know, as a lot of us do, after the 12th grade, I wasn't exactly sure about what I wanted to do, but I did want to get into something creative. And so I wanted to go to design school because I wanted to become a designer, maybe get into art direction. And so I started applying for design colleges. I applied for NID and Srishti, Bangalore, and MIT, ID, I think in Pune. And I got into Srishti, and I basically, enrolled myself and I went over there. And so I'm from Srinagar, I'm from Kashmir. So I did all my schooling over there, and from there I went to Srishti, and essentially to study design. And after the first year, which was the foundational, year, I saw that there were a lot of streams and a lot of courses that I could take up, and one of them was film. And I had grown up essentially, watching Hindi films, watching Bollywood, so I didn't really know much about world cinema. And that's where I got introduced to it in design school, which is actually became into film school for me because I ended up studying film because I started taking film course after film course. At that time, you had the freedom to choose a lot of different streams, so I did that for a while, and then I realized that film is what I really like doing, and I graduated in it essentially. And yes, there hasn't been any looking back from there because I just continued film after that. After I graduated, I came to Bombay, and my grandmother lives here, and I just came and lived with her because without that, if I didn't have that support, like I wouldn't have been able to like survive in the city. I feel, and find a job. So I basically squatted over at a house, and I started looking for jobs in film, and that's really how I started. So there was nothing really which was like a light bulb moment for me. I feel like I'm happy that it kind of happened smoothly for me, that I didn't, I wasn't doing something else. And then I realized, okay, I want to get into filmmaking, which is, happens with a lot of people. I feel a little lucky that I figured it out early on. So I've been doing only this for a very long time.
Ma'am, when you said to your parents like I want to go to film industry, what was their reaction? Were they supportive?
They were pretty okay, actually. My father is also, I mean, he not anymore. He's retired, but he was a documentary filmmaker. He used to make like films for Doordarshan back in Kashmir. So that way, in the 80s, he was in Bombay and he used to work in ad films. So that way, he was also a part of it. So of course, I feel like he and my mother, my parents, would have wanted me to get into something which was more stable, probably. And yeah, they did push me to do something like that, but eventually, I don't think it was too much of a fight when I had to get into it. Yeah.
And ma'am, how did you find your first job? What was your first job? And how did you find it, ma'am?
My first job is actually, my college itself had a division called Srishti Films. And Srishti Films was basically a documentary division. And so they used to get a lot of commissions from companies to make like short films. And so I don't know. So there's this company called NABARD, which is the, I forgot, National Agricultural Bank of something, or and rural development, something like that. It's a long name. And so they NABARD is basically a bank which gives out money to farmers and people in agriculture and then at the grassroots level, and sets up projects for them. So they wanted somebody to go and document those projects and make like small short films. So that was my first project, um, like my first job, which was actually paying me, and it wasn't an internship. It was actually just a bunch of us, three, four of us, who used to just get in a car and then drive around the whole state. Like we did Gujarat and we did Rajasthan. So we used to just drive from one place to another, shoot, go to the next place, and by the end of it, like after doing maybe 8 or 10 films, we used to return and then edit them on our own, and then send them to Nabad, and that was that. So I would consider that that was still my safe job because I kind of got it through my college faculty. So I would say like my real actual job, which I kind of got on my own, was this feature film. It was a Tibetan language feature film, so an independent film. If you've heard of the film festival called DIF, Dharamshala International Film Festival,
Tenzing.
yeah, so
Yeah.
Tenzing and Ritu, who are the founder directors of DIF, they are also filmmakers, right? So it was their film. It was called The Sweet Requiem, and yeah, and just before that, I had gone to Dharamshala for DIF as a film fellow. I had gotten selected as a film fellow in 2016, and I'd met them over there, and then serendipitously I got onto that film which they were doing the next year as a script supervisor. So that was my first into filmmaking, and I didn't know anything about script supervision. I didn't even know that that job exists. So I literally learned on the job. Like my chief AD told me, this is a book, this is the name. If you can find it and read it. And I found it, and I was like, it was like some 2-3 thousand rupees, and I was like, I can't afford this book right now. So I don't know how I found it, but probably some I downloaded it off the internet, and it wasn't even a good PDF. It was like a Xerox copy of the book, which somebody had Xerox and nicely collated into a PDF. So I read that, and I essentially learned what script supervision even means, which is and it's a very important job on set. I feel like in India it's not given that much importance as it should be, and because the script supervisor essentially makes sure everything that is written gets shot, and the continuity of everything is there, and if your shots are going to cut with each other. So yeah, and of course check for dialogues, which I couldn't do because I don't understand Tibetan, and that was the language. So I had a fellow script supervisor, and he was checking for the dialogue continuity, and I was doing like action and log, and the logging everything, because you're the mediator between what is being shot, and then what the editor is going to get, essentially all the notes. So that was my first job, I would say. Yeah.
How long was the project? How-
Um, I think maybe 2 months or so, 2.5 months. But we weren't shooting for that long. We basically had I won't even say two schedules. It was a continuous shoot, but we had two different locations. So we started in Ladakh, and it was really cold. We needed snow. So we started in Ladakh. I think we did 7-8 days over there because we used to have very short days because it was cold. So we shot continuously for 7-ish days. Then we all came down to Delhi, and it was super hot. This is like March in Delhi, March or April, I think, in Delhi. So it's super hot. So we're coming from super cold to like a very hot and dry heat, and we all fell sick, obviously, because of the change in temperature. And I remember in the Delhi shoot, we were, at least me, I was like sick throughout because I had a cold, but it was so hot that I had to drink something cold all the time. So I was having Coke all the time, and it was just not helping. So yeah, and I think that shoot was the longer one because that was the main chunk of the film, and that was around 20 something days more. So the whole project must have taken me 1.5 to 2 months to complete from beginning to end. Yeah, yeah.
And ma'am, before making Bad Eggs, did you assisted somewhere? Did you work as an AD?
So I script supervised a lot. I think by the end of it, I must have done four or five films as a script supervisor, and in one of the last films, which is The Disciple, which is the last film I script supervised on, that I was also the DA. So the DA's job is much more extensive, and you start much earlier. So I think I did four months of pre-production before we got into shoot, and then the shoot was over a span of 3 to 4 months also. So the whole project was around 7 or 8 months. So over that, I was the DA and the script supervisor. And the DA's job is a little different from an AD because you're shadowing the director throughout, and you're like basically the mediator between him or her and the rest of the crew, and making sure that whatever information has to be relayed comes to him, and then whatever he has to approve or disapprove, show him like for example, audition tapes which come from the casting team and say कि अच्छा इनमें से किसको choose करना है, and then you tell them and they, they log the actor, etc., etc. So stay, sit in for the, or not the audition, sorry, the rehearsals, for example, and then your script supervision job also comes in then, because during rehearsals if dialogues change, then you have to take care of it and make a note of it. So I assisted there. I've also AD'd. I think I properly AD'd only on one feature film, which is called Mag, The Winter Within, and it's a Kashmiri film set in Kashmir, and I think it premiered at Busan International Film Festival in 2022, and it won the audience award over there. And since then, it's traveled quite a lot, and it's slowly there are screenings happening in India as well for it. And that was a film where it was a very small crew, so I was one of two ADs, but the other AD was actually the chief, and he was also the associate producer. So I had to do a lot of the, cover a lot of departments on my own, which was fun. Yeah. So before I got into writing, screenwriting properly, that was my last job, ED job.
And then, if somebody wants to become filmmaker, is it required that he should AD someone? He should AD a filmmaker? Anything like that?
I personally don't think it's a necessity. A lot of people have never AD'd anyone and they're great filmmakers. A lot of people who AD a lot and they never become filmmakers also. And a lot of people who AD'd get to that point and do become filmmakers. So I think there's no rule as such. There's no rule of thumb that you need to do it. I think ADing, if you don't know anything about filmmaking at all, it can be helpful to just understand how a set works, and just what are the moving parts, what are the working parts, like how do all these different departments come together and create the film, essentially. And I think that can be very educational, but I don't think that keep do like if you keep doing it, it's not going to make you a better filmmaker. I think that is your own, that's going to be your own process and your own, and I wouldn't even say education, it's going to be just your, like, how you strive to do it, and you read up on it and watch films and study films and talk to filmmakers like you're doing right now, right? So you're imbibing from people about their craft. And I would, like, personally, I would say that I didn't AD a lot. I used to script supervise, and I found script supervision and even being a DA much more enjoyable than being an AD, because whenever I was an ED, I never knew what was being shot. Like I couldn't see the monitor, or I didn't, I was away from the action sometimes because I was like organizing other things and making sure everything is happening and getting an actor to set. Um, so whereas if I was a script supervisor, I could see the shot, I could understand what are the decisions being taken in the shot, how what kind of direction is being given to the actors, why is this a good shot, why is it good, why is it NG, why is it an okay shot, why are we retaking, all of that. So I found that much more enjoyable and interesting. But that being said, if you want to ED, go for it, do it, but don't get comfortable over there for too long. Okay? Yeah.
Ma'am, just to make sure, what is DA?
DA is like literally the opposite. If you just switch the words from AD to DA, is basically director's assistant rather than assistant director. But DA is essentially a job which can, it can change depending on the people, the project, the filmmaker. But I'll tell you about myself. A DA is an AD comes on board a little bit before shoot, because they have to, they probably might be given different departments, and they run a set, meaning like they are responsible for people coming on set, giving them the call time, telling this department what has to be ready on this day, and basically stagger things, making sure when is lunch, when is pack up, does this actor need to come at 5 a.m. or can they come at 7 a.m., and how long do they need for their makeup, are they going to take 1 hour for makeup or 2 hours for makeup, because then we'll call them at 4, things like that, right? That's an ED's job, and essentially they run the set, they call action, they are They're basically doing a lot of logistic works as well. A DA is shadowing the director, so he or she is making sure that whatever the director wants creatively is being communicated to other people. And it the thing can, the job profile can change, really depending on the project. You could be doing research for them. You could be, running around getting references for something, or you could be organizing meetings with the other departments. You could be taking notes of what's being said and making sure, everybody is on the same page. Like I said, you can be on the rehearsals. You can be there for auditions, and just be there, so things are seamless from pre-production to actually when you get on shoot. Because you can't, sometimes you don't hire ads for, you know much before the shoot begins. You might, or hire them a month or two before. But the DA can be around. And the DA sometimes also, because they are so in tune with the project from the beginning, they also go into post production. So after the shoot is over, all the people who were on the shoot, they leave because their job is done. But a DA sometimes can carry over and make sure that, all the departments later on, like the grade and the edit and the VFX and the sound and sound design, sound mix, everything is happening on time. And all that is cohesive. Post production is a different beast altogether. And there's a post production supervisor mostly, because it's a very lonely job. And sometimes DAs also kind of handle that as well. And nowadays DAs are not even project wise. They are, like, they'll be attached to a director, and they'll just be hired for anything and everything they do. And so they can be like basically coordinating between two three different projects that the director is doing. And that also happens. So that's why the job profile is kind of, I would say, a little malleable. And yeah, so it can change. Yeah.
Okay. And ma'am, what was your experience while working in The Disciple? It was directed by Chaitanya Tamane. It went to Venice, won an award as well. So, what was your experience?
It was a lot of fun to work on that film. It was a very a specific process to that film, and there was a lot of attention to detail to everything. Like, even before I joined, the casting was had been happening for maybe a year, or not maybe a year, but for a very long time before me. And they had auditioned a lot of people, because it was also based, because it's based on the world is of Indian classical music. And they did want people who actually can sing, like actors who can actually sing as well. But of course, you're not going to get actors who sing, so they were looking for singers who can act, right? So they basically must have auditioned everybody and anybody in the Indian classical music scene, and not just singers, but like people who play the tabla, the harmonium, tanpura, sitar, any instrument at all. So they had a repository of all of that, and they could choose from that. So their authenticity was given a lot of importance. And it was a period film, even though period wasn't that far. It was around 2005 2006, but still there was attention to detail over there. And it was a very um, it was a slow shoot. So we weren't shooting a lot of scenes in a day. We might shoot one scene or maybe two scenes maximum. So also to kind of help the actors who are non-actors essentially, and training those people and rehearsing with them, and really speaking to them. I mean, I didn't do it, but he was doing it. And about what is this world and what is this character feeling. And then our main lead, Aditya, he also, because he had to play different ages, he had to first of all lose weight, and then over and do one schedule, and then put on weight in a few weeks to do the second schedule. So he had a body transformation as well. So there was all of that happening. So it was one of the most immersive films that I personally have been in, because it was just you could see that it's Chaitanya's, it's like his baby. So, and yeah, it was
Ma'am,
fun.
so you have made a short film called Bad Eggs. So
Yeah.
how the idea came, ma'am, for the story?
Um, I don't remember actually. It was during the pandemic. It was during 2020 in the very first wave of the pandemic, maybe like June, July. And things were kind of, the first wave was kind of coming, not coming to an end, but things were opening up slowly. People were moving out. There were some shoots happening, ad shoots, but like people were all, in those suits, and there were, I think there was a COVID supervisor and things like that. All of that was happening, but people were essentially not really shooting or working at that time. So I decided that I wanted to make a short film before I even had an idea of what it could be, because I had a lot of friends who are filmmakers and actors and DPs and just like, yeah. So I wanted and I wanted to do something together to also meet them, because we miss being together. um, and I also knew that they are a little jobless like I was. So I thought, ki, acha, this is a good time to do this, because then after that, if when everybody is busy, it's going to get really tough. So I presented the idea to Zoya, and I said, I want to make a short film and I want you to be the lead in it, but I haven't written it yet. So only if you say yes, I will write it. And she said, yeah, of course. And so that was my impetus to actually do it, because now I was accountable to her, right? And I had always been very interested and intrigued by twins in films. I found them very, I don't know, creepy and cinematic, so I wanted to work with that. And I feel like the name Bad Egg probably just came to me very early on. I don't know if it came before I wrote the script or after. I have no idea. But yeah, so I just wanted to work with that and work with a theme which I can do with very few actors as well, which I can do indoors. So because of that, I wanted to make something which is very visceral and has strong themes, and I can have strong visuals, which don't have to, which so like Zoya, I can take, like, Zoya is of course carrying the film, but I can give her more to play with, and just just make it fun and creepy, because that's what I wanted to do. And we got together, all of us, by the end of it, and I think it was shot in a maximum of 3 locations over 4 days. And it was just like friends. My One of my friends who also produced, like, he was the EP on the film. It was his house. Then we found one like studio, open studio in Kolaba, and the third place was actually just Jim's own house, because we only had to shoot with him for one night. And we basically said, can we, if it's, because people were also not moving out so much because of COVID, right? So we just said, we'll come to your house. We'll, anyway, we didn't have a big crew, so we said we'll cut down the crew. We'll only 2 or 3 people will come, and we'll just shoot it, and you don't even have to move. And that's what we did. So it was a very fun and quick shoot. It took Then after that, it took me a very long time to finish it, because I got super lazy with it. So I think I took quite a long time to actually, because as I told you, post production is very lonely, and to figure all the different moving parts of it was quite something. And but I eventually did finish it. Yeah.
How much time it took, ma'am, in post production, and what was the
Uh,
process?
so I we shot it in August of 2020, and I was editing it myself. That's why I was getting lazy. So I think it was 7 8 months I didn't do anything with it. Yeah, so I think when I got back to it, it was probably May or June of 2021. Okay, so you can imagine. But I finished that film. But after that, when I started, I said, I'm going to finish this film, and by November or December of that year, it was done, of 2021. It was like complete. So it took that much. I would say, like, if you take it from when it was shot to when it ended, it was a little bit over a year. Yeah, but that's on me.
Okay. And ma'am,
That's
you knew Zoya and Jim before?
I knew Zoya because the film that I worked on in Kashmir, which is The Winter Within, she's the main lead in it, and that's where I met her and I became friends with her. And and during COVID, a lot of us were doing a lot of Zoom calls and talking to each other and celebrating birthdays and stuff like that. And so we were all in touch. And yeah, then as I told you, I wanted to make a short film. I was writing at that time. I was in the writer's room for Love Hostel actually at that time during COVID. Um, so there wasn't much else to do, but I was also very thankful because there was something substantial that I was doing every day. I was waking up and I was getting onto a call and actually speaking about the film, and I was in the writer's room for that. So because of that, I think the creative juices were kind of flowing. So I thought, okay, let's just strike when the iron is hot. I guess, yeah.
And ma'am, why was it black and white, ma'am?
Um, there are a lot of reasons for it, but also because the people who are going to watch this haven't watched the film. Um, mostly I tell people once they watch the film and they have some context, but I'll tell you anyway, um, in a way that it's not a spoiler either. But I think because they were twins, so I did want to reduce the differences between them, visual differences between them. So that's why I kept it in black and white, and also because the themes were very questionable, and I was constantly trying to question people's judgments about what the film is about. So I was reaching for those gray areas. So that's why I wanted to keep it and bring out that dichotomy through the black and white. And also that character which you see for quite a long time looks very claustrophobic and very trapped in her surroundings. So I felt black and white was very good to show that, because she felt like her life was almost colorless, which it was. And so all of those reasons I kept it black and white, and then there are a few reasons which I won't tell you right now. Wait, sorry, my video went off. But yeah, and so yeah, if anybody wants to watch the film, it is on watchmyfilm.com, and then you'll understand what I'm saying.
Ma'am, currently are you writing something or shooting something?
I'm writing a couple of like working on a couple of shows. I which I can't really tell you a lot about because they're not like my own original concept. They're like commission work. So I'm working on a show for Amazon right now, and some other tiny like Bibles and things like that. But my own thing which I'm working on right now is my book, which is going to come out by the end of the year. It's called Lol Kashmir, and it's going to be published by HarperCollins India. And probably by, I don't know, October to December ke beech mein sometime it'll be out. And essentially it's stories of love and longing and communication in Kashmir during different periods of unrest. And I've been working on it for almost 3.5 years, 3.5, 4-ish years, and collecting all these stories from real people and collating them into a book. And so that is what I'm really excited for right now.
Ma'am, you're writing a book, but I have a question as a filmmaker. Like you could have done a documentary as well.
Hmm.
Because
I didn't do the documentary. I mean, of course, the idea came to my mind. Um, First of all, because a lot of people wanted to be anonymous in the book, I didn't want to do a documentary, because from the amount of people I spoke to, I think not even 1 or 2% would have been comfortable with me shooting them. So that's why I didn't do that. And then I also thought about making short films out of it, but there were a lot of stories that I collected, and I wanted to do all of them justice. So I thought the best way to do it is by making a book out of it, and then we can think about it later on what happens with it once it's out.
great,
Yeah,
great. And ma'am, your favorite films and your favorite filmmakers, can you recommend a few?
I can never remember favorite films ever because I don't think I have one favorite film.
No,
Uh,
you can like
but
it's not
I'll
like
tell you
one.
some filmmakers
Yeah.
I have always loved. Like my first introduction to world cinema was through the Iranian films, and I really love Jafar Panahi and Kiarostami and Asghar Farhadi and their films. I really like Kichlowski and his way of storytelling, his like Decalogue and his three color series, and have really influenced my work. And even before I went to shoot Bad Egg, I actually watched the double life of Veronique just to just get into the zone. And I wanted to see how people have shot, you know, twins and doppelgangers over the years. And what are the small nuances that I can create, and what are the themes, what are the symbolisms I can use. Then Almodovar is somebody who I really enjoy. Wong Kar Wai is somebody I enjoy. Wim Wenders, and of course Bong Joon Ho and Corrida, all of these people. I would say there's a lot of films which I haven't watched, which you're supposed to watch, and they're always in my watch list, and I slowly watch them. And whatever films come out, and thankfully a lot of world cinema also it comes to the theaters nowadays, so you can watch it, and through, like, I live in Bombay, so through Mami. But yeah, I also I do enjoy some of the Bollywood films. I work in the industry, so I always look forward to like good and fun cinema here as well.
Okay. So, last question is, if somebody wants to become a filmmaker, what advice would you give to them?
Advice. um I would say that just look for what you like, you know start watching films and see the filmmakers that you like, the films that you like, the kind of storytelling that you enjoy, and you study it. And because that is going to be your first film school, really. If you get a lot of scripts for films online, especially like foreign films. In Hindi films थोड़ा सा नहीं उतना जल्दी मिलता है, but those films you can really download the scripts, you can read the scripts, and then you can watch the film and then read the script again and do that exercise and just see how does something get translated from page to the screen. And you'll understand a lot of creative choices right there. You'll see what scenes didn't even make it, which probably got edited out, and how the story still made sense. And I would say do that for yourself, and whatever job or stream you want to take in a film set, whether you want to go into sound, or if you want to get into cinematography or grading or writing or direction, whatever it is, seek out those people like you are doing right now. Seek out those people and speak to them and ask them about their experiences. And um, and be shameless about it, and ask them and say, I'm just looking for some help. And if they see you as a genuine person, I'm sure they'll speak to you. So I would say that is the advice I will give you. Yeah, and I'm still learning myself, really. I feel a lot of uncertainty about my work from time to time, and I'm like, what am I doing? When am I going to make one film? What is going to happen? And all of that is never going to really leave you. But I think the main thing is to really just have fun and be authentic, and say that you watch something when you watch something, and say you haven't watched it when you haven't watched it. You don't have to watch everything in the world to be a filmmaker. You don't have to be a super film buff and know कि उस फिल्म में उसने कौन सा ईस्टर एग कहाँ पर था, and what was hidden there, and what was the rivalry in that film, you know all of that. It's fun to know and talk about, of course, but it's not a given if you want to become a filmmaker. To become a filmmaker, you just have to make a film. Essentially, that's all. And it can be anything. It can be something you made on your phone, and you edited it and you put it out there, and that's a filmmaker. And yeah, I don't know whether that's advice, but yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Okay. Great, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining.
Thank
Such
you.
such